So, Brian, what is the James Webb Telescope and why is it replacing the Hubble Space Telescope? Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, what astronomers hoped would happen was that the Hubble telescope would be operating more or less flawlessly for its entire design lifetime. And then soon after the period of about 2012 or so, 2016, between 2012 and 2016, it would be replaced by a far more powerful telescope. And the telescope that was designed to replace it would have the light-carrying capability of about 9 Hubble Space Telescopes in a single telescope. And it would be able to detect things that the Hubble Space Telescope couldn't detect because of technical aspects of how the Hubble Space Telescope is primarily limited to its ability to see in the optical wavelengths that our eyes can see in. But to see things really far away, you need to go into infrared wavelengths, and that's where the James Webb Space Telescope was supposed to shine, no pun intended.
Now, it's gone over the budget limit. Do you think that the delay makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's putting it mildly. That's like if you had a report card limit of getting a C and you got an F. Unfortunately, the original budget was only about $500 million or so, and the original duration of the project was supposed to launch well before when it will currently launch, as I said. And so this is a project that's been going on since the late 1990s, and at the earliest, if all went perfect, would launch by 2020. And the budget's gone from $500 million or so up to about $10 billion in estimated equivalent currencies. Now, that's not to say that it won't, that the delays weren't warranted in some sense to repair aspects of the project. But unlike the Hubble telescope, you might recall that the Hubble telescope had its share of delays too. But some of those were caused by things out of control of the astronomers and the engineers who were building the telescope, namely the Challenger disaster. That delayed the launch of the Hubble telescope by several years.
Sure.
And then when it was put in orbit, it famously had its blurry vision problem that needed to be corrected by astronauts visiting it in a space repair mission. This telescope will be launched so far away that that no space shuttle will be able to reach it. It'll be past the orbit of the moon.
So you did touch on it a little bit in terms of what it's capable of, but tell us why the James Webb Telescope is important for new discoveries about the universe.
So when we look back in space, we're really looking back in time. Because light travels at a very rapid rate, but nevertheless it travels at a finite speed, when you see something, like when you look at the moon, you're not seeing the moon as it is exactly now. Or when you see the sun, it's not exactly now. It's 8 minutes ago. So when you look far back in space, you're seeing things as they were earlier in time. And when you look really far back in space, you're seeing things that are being redshifted, that they're expanding with the expansion of the universe. So if the sun were to be put at great distances and subject to the expansion that's taking place of space itself, the sun would look a lot redder than it does. In fact, most of its light would be infrared and invisible to the Hubble telescope or to our eyes. So this telescope has a very advanced camera system, the Webb telescope, and that will allow it to detect not just the emission of a single sun, but of enormous conglomerations of galaxies and clusters that are under the influence of dark matter and dark energy. That's what makes it so special.